Hey everybody, Greg here, and today is August 21st, 2017. This is a short video about work-life balance. I saw an article today, a report that stated 4.8 billion people on the planet will be short-sighted by the year 2050. So billions of people, like half the world's population, will need glasses. Well, that's kind of unusual. That represents a big increase in vision problems for people on the planet. And the cause for this is cited as being the overuse of essentially handheld devices, smartphones, tablets, and then people working at desktop computers. So, a lot of work used to be done by getting up from your desk, grabbing a file folder, putting it in a filing cabinet. There was a lot of physical moving of information. If you look at old movies, you'd see the person who works in the mailroom and delivers paperwork all over an office building. So a lot of that physical movement is no longer necessary. And for people who are working a typical job, in the cubicle, or in an office of any kind, just about, you may occasionally look up from your computer, right, to compose a thought, that you're going to write somebody an email. But what are you looking at? You're looking at the wall that's just 3 inches behind your computer. So what's happening is we're working in these enclosed spaces where our eyes are not having to adjust to objects at different distances. Now, something that interestingly, happened to me over the past year or so, I've been getting out more on my bicycle. I've been trying to do a lot more of my work mobile, like now. And rather than sitting down and writing an article, which can take time, I'll get out on my bike and just record one of these videos to answer tech questions that come in, or questions relating to tiny houses, or whatever else people would want some advice about. And so as a result of that, I'm getting outdoors more. And if you'll look ahead, this is basically my office. And so when I look away from my computer, or when I look away from the video camera, this is what I see. So there are trees, the trails, going on ahead. I went to my optometrist, as you do, once a year, you have your vision checked. And I got the news that my vision had improved. I've been working a desk job for 15 years. I didn't think my, vision would improve, but there's something about, focusing on various objects at various distances, I think, that helps exercise the eyes muscles. I've seen some, stories on the internet and YouTube videos that say, oh, you can do this exercise and you'll get your vision back. I don't know if that stuff's true, but I do think it makes sense that providing our vision and providing our eyes with a diversity of objects around us at different distances probably does help keep them exercised. So anyway, yeah, I went back to the doctor, had the eye exam, and then when I went to get my driver's license renewed, I was kind of curious to see, had my vision improved enough that I would no longer need glasses for driving. And I had been noticing that, it was actually pretty easy to see signs, read license plate, whatever, at relatively far distances. And so sure enough, I took the eye exam at the DMV to get my new license and no longer need glasses. So anyway, your results may vary, and I'm probably not seeing as well as somebody who's had LASIK surgery or whatever, but it's nice that my vision's improved a little bit. I've noticed it, and the results are showing up in independent studies, and those are just some of the benefits of getting outdoors. In my work with IT, with computer technology, I'm often advising people about just how to best use their technology. and how to avoid repetitive stress injuries to the body. So, vision impairment would be one repetitive stress injury of constantly, using our eyes in the same way every day, hours on end. And whether it's work or entertainment, people are playing games or watching videos, or they're at work and on Facebook, all that's happening within just a few feet of your face. So since we're on the subject of repetitive stress in the workplace, I want to mention that, technology causes our interactions with our technology devices can cause us to have other kinds of repetitive stress injuries, because we've, simplified life so much to the point that all we really have to do is, move a little mouse and click, that you would think, well, that must be easier and easier on the body. Well, sort of, but if you're sitting all day and all you have to do is move your finger just, a 1/16 of an inch to click a mouse button, what happens is that the ligaments, tendons, muscles, involved in that simple action become overworked. It's like if you were to lift up a 3-pound weight, that would be pretty easy until you lifted it like 100 times or tried, holding your arm out, extending your arm and holding that 3-pound weight. After a half an hour, it's going to get pretty heavy. So the same principle's true, with regard to, the technology we use. And so what I tell people to consider is, in the workplace, even if you're in the cubicle environment and not out on a trail like I am, try to mix up the devices you use when you're on the computer and when you're communicating by email or by phone or whatever. So here's an example. Checking email, responding to email. Instead of just sitting at your computer and doing that for 4 hours, try spending an hour at your computer, but then getting up and, using your smartphone. Go for a walk and just dictate some emails. So now you're not using your fingers at all. Try using the keyboard on your iPad or whatever, just that smooth glass surface. Type on that for a while. Use a different keyboard. So throughout the day, use maybe 2 different keyboards. Use 2 or 3 different mice. Try using a touchpad in addition to using a mouse throughout the day. And then switch it up and maybe use a computer or a tablet that has a touch screen. So essentially, rather than performing the same tasks over and over and over, these physical tasks, you're mixing it up enough so that your fingers, wrists, elbow, shoulder, arms, etc. have some diversity in the movement and in the activity throughout the day. And similarly, there are people that say, well, what's better? Should I have a standing desk, or should I go with a traditional desk with a chair? Or maybe look at getting one of those yoga balls and sitting on a yoga ball. Well, I don't think there's any one answer that's correct. Sitting all day probably isn't good. Standing all day initially was kind of a fad. Everybody wanted to have the standing desks, but now some reports are indicating that, as you might imagine, common sense would suggest, is that, standing around all day on your feet isn't that great for, circulation. There can be other issues. So there's no one single solution other than, I would say, trying all the solutions, So try different chairs, sitting, standing, using your phone, your tablet, your desktop, your laptop. Try some dictation instead of typing all the time. And I think that diversity of interaction with your technology hardware devices will help to just give you more energy at the end of the day and be less strain on your body. And an example of this is when you consider the typical workout. A lot of people will mix up their workout at the gym. They'll do some strength training, then they'll get on a treadmill or an elliptical. They might go swimming, biking, walking, running, and by having a lot of different physical activities, a person's able to actually exercise more throughout the day. That's what I've been doing is, you know, if I tried to do the elliptical for 3 hours, something's going to fail. You know, that's not going to turn out well. Or if I, you know, tried to ride my bicycle every day for 8 hours a day, I'd be tired. You know, any one exercise would tire you out. But and yet, for me, I feel like I need a lot of activity and a lot of exercise. I can't just do like the 30-minute workout and then that's it for the day. So, so the way that you can achieve more exercise throughout the day is by mixing up those different activities. You're less likely to have an injury. You're less likely to get fatigued. You're less likely to get bored. So just those 3 factors mean that you'll be coming back every day wanting to get that workout in because there's some diversity to it, and you're not going to over stress your body. So anyway, those same principles can apply in the office with all this different technology. And now, you know, there really are a lot of options available to us. There was a period of 10 years or more where there weren't touch screens. You know, there weren't really touch pads that you could use at your desktop computer. There was the mouse and the keyboard, and that was it. And as for myself, I find that the Apple hardware, even if you're a Windows person, you can run Windows on a Mac, or you can remote into a Windows machine from a Mac, but I find I prefer to be using the Apple hardware. So there's something called a Magic Keyboard, there's a Magic Trackpad. I'm not real crazy about their mouse as much, but the trackpad is really nice. It's an oversized glass surface trackpad. It's very smooth to touch, very precise, and the functions that are great on the Mac actually are great on Windows as well. They transfer if you're doing a remote in or you're using a virtual PC or whatever. And the new Apple keyboards, they've been trying to find what I might refer to as a sweet spot with regard to their keyboard design. And essentially what they've been doing, what Apple's been doing in developing these new keyboards, is they've been reducing the key travel. So 0 key travel, that would be, let's say, typing on an iPad where you're just touching on glass. There's no key travel. The next level up from that would be some of the first generation MacBooks that had the really shallow key travel. Those would be examples of you're touching a key, but it's almost like it's not even moving. So anyway, and then this new Magic Keyboard from Apple is kind of a step up from that. You get a little more key travel, and I think it's more comfortable than having like almost no key travel. So and yet, you know, going back to the old style keyboards, whether it's a Windows keyboard or an old Apple keyboard where you get a lot of key travel, now to me that just feels cumbersome. So anyway, I mention that because with the Apple Magic Keyboard, you get, you know, a nice amount of key travel. It's easy on your fingers, and yet you can, you know, switch between that and a more traditional style keyboard if you want to get a little diversity throughout the day. And so, you know, a lightweight mouse I find is helpful, something that's large enough that your hand doesn't cramp, and then switching between that and a touch screen and then switch to a touchpad. That's really what helps me do a lot of the computing work that I do that otherwise would probably get me pretty fatigued. So anyway, I hope some of these suggestions have been helpful. I started out talking about vision because that's important, and today is, you know, the 21st of August 2017, so today's the solar eclipse, which is going to be happening behind these clouds somewhere very shortly. Hopefully the clouds will pass by. And so people are, you know, thinking about vision today. There's been a lot of emphasis on, you know, being careful if you're watching the solar eclipse. Do not do it without these protective glasses. So anyway, that's what got me thinking about vision today, and seeing that article about the 4.8 billion people that by 2050 will be needing to wear glasses to see clearly. So anyway, thanks for watching, and appreciate all the feedback. If you have any comments, suggestions, Always happy to hear those. And have a great day.